The Curse of the Blackwood Forest. The sun was shining down on the winding road that led to the small village of Blackwood. The trees on either side were thick and tall, casting shadows on the road below. As the car approached the village, the group of friends looked out the window, admiring the dense forest that surrounded it. Sarah, the driver of the car, turned to her friends and said, "This looks like the perfect place for our camping trip this weekend, don't you think?" John, who was sitting in the passenger seat, nodded in agreement. "Yeah, it's really peaceful here, and we can explore that forest. It looks pretty interesting." Tom and Rachel, who were sitting in the back seat, also chimed in, excited about the prospect of camping and exploring. As they entered the village, they noticed that the buildings were old and worn, giving the village a rustic feel. They parked the car and got out, stretching their legs after the long drive. As they walked around the village, they noticed that the locals were staring at them with suspicion. They approached an old man sitting on a bench and asked him about the forest surrounding the village. "Ah, the Blackwood Forest," the old man said with a shiver. "I wouldn't go near there if I were you. It's cursed, and strange things happen there. You're better off staying away." The group looked at each other skeptically. "What kind of strange things?" Rachel asked, curious. The old man looked at her gravely. "People have gone missing in that forest, and there have been reports of unexplainable happenings. The villagers have always warned outsiders to stay away." John shrugged off the warnings. "Come on, guys. It's probably just superstition. We're not going to let some old stories scare us away." Sarah nodded in agreement. "Yeah, we came all this way to explore the forest. Let's not chicken out now." As they walked back to the car, they couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. The warnings of the locals lingered in their minds, but they were determined to explore the forest. Little did they know, the forest held secrets that were beyond their understanding, secrets that would soon be revealed and change their lives forever. The next morning, the group of friends set out on their hike into the Blackwood Forest. The thick trees loomed over them, creating a sense of foreboding. As they walked deeper into the forest, they noticed that the trees seemed to be getting denser and the foliage thicker. The sound of birds and insects gradually grew quieter, as if the forest was trying to warn them of something. Rachel spoke up, breaking the silence. "This place gives me the creeps. Do you guys hear that?" Everyone stopped and listened. In the distance, they could hear what sounded like whispers and faint chanting. John dismissed it. "It's probably just the wind playing tricks on our ears. Let's keep moving." As they continued deeper into the forest, they stumbled upon an old cabin. It looked abandoned, with its windows broken and its door hanging off its hinges. Tom suggested they check it out. "Maybe there's something interesting inside." The group cautiously entered the cabin, noticing that it was empty except for a strange symbol etched onto the wall. Sarah gasped in shock. "That's the same symbol I saw in my nightmare last night." John rolled his eyes. "It's just a coincidence. Let's not get worked up over nothing." But the unease in the air was palpable, and the group hurriedly left the cabin, continuing their hike. As the sun began to set, they realized they had lost their way. They couldn't find the path that led back to the village, and panic began to set in. Suddenly, they heard a rustling in the bushes. They turned around to see a shadowy figure watching them from behind the trees. Rachel screamed, "What the hell is that?" The figure stepped forward, revealing itself to be a hulking, demonic creature with glowing red eyes. Sarah recognized the demon from her nightmare. "It's Baal, the demon of the forest." The friends turned and ran, heartbeats pounding in their chests as Baal and its minions chased after them. They ran until they were too exhausted to continue and collapsed on the forest floor, gasping for breath. Tom looked around frantically. "We're lost. What are we going to do?" Sarah spoke up, determination in her voice. "We have to find a way to break the curse. That's the only way we can stop this." And with that, the group realized that their adventure had turned into a fight for survival. Exhausted and scared, The group of friends huddled together, trying to come up with a plan. John spoke up. "We need to find a way out of here, and fast." Rachel looked around. "But we don't even know where we are. How are we going to find our way back?" Sarah interjected. "We have to focus on breaking the curse. I have a feeling that's the only way we can escape this forest." Tom sighed. "But how do we do that? We don't even know what the curse is or how it was created." Just then, they heard a cackling laugh coming from the trees. They turned around to see an old woman, dressed in tattered clothes, hobbling towards them. The woman cackled again. "You fools! You've trespassed in my forest and now you'll never leave." The friends tried to run, but the woman was too fast for them. She pointed a crooked finger at them and cast a spell, freezing them in place. "You're trapped here, just like the demon Baal," the woman hissed. "But there is a way to break the curse. You must find the 3 ingredients for my spell." The friends looked at each other in confusion. "What spell?" they asked. "The spell that will banish the demon back to its realm," the woman replied. "But you must hurry. You only have 3 days to collect the ingredients, or you'll be trapped here forever." The woman cackled again and disappeared into the trees, leaving the friends confused and frightened. Sarah spoke up. "We have to find those ingredients. It's our only hope." John nodded. "But where do we even start? We don't know anything about spells or ingredients." Tom looked around. "Maybe we can find some clues around here. Let's split up and search the area." The friends agreed, splitting up to search for clues. As they walked, they noticed strange symbols etched into the trees and rocks. Rachel pointed to one of the symbols. "Look, this is the same symbol we saw in the cabin earlier." Sarah gasped. "That must be one of the ingredients. We have to find the other 2. They continued to search the forest, encountering more obstacles and creatures along the way. But they persevered, determined to find the ingredients and break the curse. As the sun began to set on the 3rd day, they found the final ingredient and rushed back to the old woman's cabin. They performed the spell, and with a loud explosion, Baal and its minions were banished back to their realm. The old woman appeared once again, cackling with delight. "Well done, children. You've broken the curse and freed yourselves from the forest." The friends looked at each other, exhausted but relieved. They had survived their adventure and emerged stronger for it. As the friends left the old woman's cabin, they were suddenly surrounded by a group of creatures. They recognized them as the minions of the demon Baal. "We banished your master back to his realm," Sarah shouted. "Why are you still here?" The creatures hissed and snarled, preparing to attack. The friends braced themselves, ready for the final battle. John shouted, "We have to work together to defeat them. Remember what we learned in the forest. Stay focused and stay together." They fought valiantly, using the skills they had learned throughout their journey to fend off the creatures. But it was a difficult battle, and they soon realized they were outnumbered. "We can't keep this up forever," Rachel yelled. "There are too many of them." Tom looked around. "We need a plan. We need to figure out a way to take them down all at once." Suddenly, Sarah had an idea. "The symbols. Remember the symbols we saw in the forest? They're the key to defeating these creatures." The friends quickly searched the area and found a large stone with the symbol etched into it. They pushed it over, causing a chain reaction that knocked down several trees and crushed the creatures. The remaining creatures fled, and the friends were left alone in the clearing. They looked at each other, panting and covered in sweat. "We did it," John exclaimed. "We defeated the minions of Baal." Rachel smiled. "And we did it together. We make a great team." Tom added, "But we're not out of the woods yet. We still have to find our way back home." Sarah nodded. "Let's focus on finding a way out of this forest. We've come too far to give up now." The friends continued on, their spirits lifted by their victory over Baal's minions. As they walked, they noticed that the forest was changing. The trees were less dense, and the air was less oppressive. After a while, they saw a break in the trees ahead. They rushed towards it, emerging from the forest into a clearing. In the distance, They could see the lights of a town. They looked at each other in disbelief. "We made it," Sarah whispered. The friends walked towards the town, relieved and grateful to be alive. They had survived the curse of the Blackwood forest and emerged stronger for it. The friends were finally out of the forest, but they still had a long journey ahead of them. They walked towards the town, hoping to find a place to rest and figure out how to get back home. As they entered the town, they noticed that the people there were staring at them. It was as if they had never seen outsiders before. John approached a man and asked, "Excuse me, can you tell us how to get back to the city?" The man looked at him, startled. "The city? You mean you've been in the Blackwood forest?" The friends exchanged a worried glance. They had heard rumors that people in the town were afraid of the forest, but they had no idea how deep those fears ran. "We need to get out of here," Rachel whispered. Tom nodded. "Let's find a place to rest and figure out our next move." They entered a nearby inn, but the innkeeper was also wary of them. It was clear that the villagers had been warned about outsiders in the forest. Sarah approached the innkeeper and said, "We just need a place to rest for the night. We'll be gone in the morning." The innkeeper hesitated, then reluctantly showed them to a room. The friends settled in, grateful for a chance to rest after their long journey. As they sat in the room, they discussed their next steps. They had to find a way back home, but they didn't know how. John said, "We could try to find a phone and call for help." Rachel shook her head. "We're in the middle of nowhere. There's no guarantee we'll find a working phone." Tom suggested, "We could try to find someone who's willing to give us a ride." Sarah nodded. "That's a good idea. We just have to be careful about who we trust." The friends agreed on a plan, and the next morning they set out to find someone who could help them. They approached several people, but no one was willing to take them out of town. Just when they were about to give up, they met a young woman named Lily. She had heard about their journey through the forest and offered to give them a ride back to the city. "You're the first outsiders to come out of that forest alive," Lily said. "I want to help you." The friends were grateful and relieved. They piled into Lily's car and drove out of town, leaving the curse of the Blackwood forest behind. As they drove away, they couldn't help but feel that they had been changed by their experience. They had faced their fears and triumphed over them. They had become a team, and they knew they could handle anything that came their way. The journey home was long, but they finally made it back to the city. They exchanged hugs and said their goodbyes, knowing that they had been through something that would bond them together forever. The curse of the Blackwood forest was over, but the memories would stay with them always. The friends had made it out of the Blackwood forest, but they couldn't forget what had happened. They had faced a demon and narrowly escaped with their lives. They had to deal with the aftermath of their experience. Tom, John, Rachel, and Sarah met up a week after their return. They went to a local diner to catch up and talk about what had happened. "It's still hard to believe that we made it out alive," Rachel said. John nodded. "I keep having nightmares about that demon." Sarah said, "I know what you mean. It's like we're still haunted by what happened." Tom looked at them all and said, "But we're here, together. We faced our fears and survived. We can move on from this and be stronger because of it." They all agreed and talked about how they would move forward. They decided to start a support group for people who had experienced trauma in their lives. They wanted to help others who had been through similar experiences and show them that they could overcome their fears. Over the next few weeks, the group met regularly. They talked about their experiences and offered support and encouragement to each other. They found that by helping others, they were also helping themselves. One day, Sarah received a letter in the mail. It was from Lily, the woman who had given them a ride out of town. "She's inviting us to a party at her house," Sarah said. Tom looked at her. "Do you think we should go?" Rachel shrugged. "Why not? It might be fun to see her again." They all agreed and decided to attend the party. When they arrived, they were surprised to see that the house was located in the middle of the Blackwood forest. Lily greeted them at the door and welcomed them inside. As they walked through the house, they noticed strange symbols and artifacts scattered throughout. It was clear that Lily had an interest in the occult. They sat down with Lily and she said, "I want to thank you for what you did for me." They looked at her, confused. "What do you mean?" John asked. Lily said, "I was trapped in the Blackwood forest. Bale had put a spell on me and I couldn't leave. But when you broke the curse, I was set free." The friends were shocked. They had no idea that their actions had saved someone else. Lily continued, "I know it was dangerous, but you did what had to be done, and for that, I am grateful." The friends smiled at her, happy to have helped someone in need. They realized that their journey through the Blackwood forest had not only changed them, but also had a greater impact than they could have ever imagined. As they left the party and drove away from the forest, they knew that they had faced their fears and emerged stronger for it. They had helped others and shown that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope.